If you study everyday survival practices of the early 20th century, false drawer bottoms stand out as one of the quietest and most effective security measures ever used. During the 1930s, especially through the Great Depression, ordinary households hid valuables in plain sight using furniture that looked completely unremarkable. These were not novelty tricks or clever parlor illusions. They were practical, repeatable methods built by cabinet makers and homeowners who expected theft, searches, and hard times. Many of these compartments went undiscovered for decades, even when experienced thieves were involved. A false drawer bottom was not a loose panel tossed inside a drawer. In well-made examples, it was a second internal floor installed several centimeters above the real bottom. The visible interior appeared shallow, discouraging inspection, while the hidden cavity underneath held documents, cash, ration books, jewelry, or even small firearms. The craftsmanship mattered. Builders matched wood grain, aging, and tool marks so nothing looked added later. Often the false bottom rested on thin cleats glued or nailed into the drawer sides, while the real bottom remained untouched beneath. What made this effective was precision. The spacing was just enough to conceal items, but not enough to raise suspicion. A drawer that felt slightly shallow was normal in the 1930s, especially in mass-produced furniture. Thieves expected inconsistency, not hidden engineering. Professional burglars of the era worked fast and prioritized speed. They dumped drawers, overturned furniture, and checked obvious hiding places like mattresses and boxes. False drawer bottoms resisted this approach. When a drawer was removed and shaken, nothing fell out. When contents were dumped, the hidden layer stayed sealed. Unless someone knew exactly what to look for and had time to pry or measure, the compartment stayed invisible. Another reason these were overlooked was cultural expectation. Thieves were trained to spot safes, lockboxes, and secret panels behind walls, not subtle joinery inside cheap-looking drawers. Depression-era furniture often looked worn and low value, which worked in the homeowner's favor. A plain dresser rarely invited deep inspection. Kitchen dressers, bedroom nightstands, sewing cabinets, and sideboards were the most common locations. These were areas where paperwork and small valuables were naturally expected, so a drawer presence made sense. Sewing drawers were particularly effective because notions and fabric clutter discouraged digging. In many surviving examples, the false bottom was in the second or third drawer rather than the top, exploiting the assumption that valuables would be stored higher up. In rural homes, false bottoms also appeared in tool chests and pantry cabinets. These versions were rougher but just as effective. A drawer holding nails or hardware rarely drew suspicion, yet the cavity beneath could store cash wrapped in oilcloth. Access methods were deliberately unsophisticated. Some false bottoms slid forward once the drawer was removed and tilted at a specific angle. Others lifted out using a barely visible finger notch cut into the back edge, hidden by shadow. There were no springs, magnets, or obvious releases. Complexity increases failure. Builders favored gravity and friction because they never broke. In some cases, the drawer had to be fully removed and inverted before the false bottom shifted, a step no thief would waste time performing. This simple design choice is one of the reasons these compartments stayed hidden for generations. Paper currency, gold coins, land deeds, and ration cards were common. Firearms and ammunition were less frequent but not unheard of, especially in rural areas. The key was silence and stability. False bottoms kept items from rattling and avoided metal-on-wood noise that might draw attention during a hurried search. Food ration coupons and identity papers were especially important during the 1930s and early 1940s. Losing them could mean, well, losing access to necessities. Hiding them inside furniture ensured they stayed within the household but out of sight. Modern survivalists and historians can apply this method without replicating antique furniture. A standard drawer can be retrofitted using thin plywood or hardwood strips to create a raised floor. The important part is restraint. The drawer must still feel normal when opened and used daily. Overbuilding defeats the purpose. For practical use today, this technique works well for document protection, emergency cache backup drives, or small tools you do not want immediately visible. In regions where searches or theft are a concern, a false drawer bottom remains effective because it relies on human behavior rather than technology. When restoring antique furniture, understanding this practice is also critical. Many original false bottoms are destroyed during refinishing by people who just don't recognize them. Knowing what to look for preserves both historical integrity and hidden history. False drawer bottoms succeed because they exploit assumptions. They rely on speed, distraction, and the belief that what is visible is all that exists. These assumptions have not changed. Modern thieves still prioritize quick wins and obvious targets. A well-made false bottom remains one of the least suspicious hiding methods available. For historians, these compartments tell a story of quiet resistance and preparation. They reflect a mindset shaped by scarcity, distrust of institutions, and reliance on self-made solutions. For survivalists, they offer a low-tech, durable approach to concealment that does not depend on power, electronics, or complexity. If you value practical history that still works today, this is the kind of knowledge worth preserving and using. If you found this breakdown useful, subscribe to Battlefield of Survival, share this with fellow history buffs and preparedness-minded viewers, and keep these forgotten techniques alive by understanding how and why they actually worked.